وسهلا بكل الذين ينضموا للاستماع إلى راديو بلدي أول راديو عربي أمريكي ويعنى بقضايا العرب في المهجر. برامجنا في راديو بلدي كل يوم جمعة من 8 وحتى 9 صباحا في بث حي ومباشر عبر WNZK راديو 690 AM. صباح الخير بلدي، صباح الخير لكل مستمعينا.
Welcome to Radio Baladi, the first Arab, Middle Eastern, and American simulcast radio show. Radio Baladi is broadcast every Friday morning on WNZK 690 AM from 8 until 9 Eastern Time on Good Morning, Michigan. Our call-in number 248-557-3300. And now, stay tuned for the best radio talk show on Arab and American issues.
The U.S. Arab Radio Network is the largest Arab and Muslim radio network in America, broadcasting throughout the Midwest region Monday through Friday on WNZK AM 690. U.S. Arab Radio features Arabic and English language programming on every topic, from health, food, and culture to government, politics, and legal issues. Listen live to U.S. Arab Radio in Michigan, Toledo, Ohio, and Windsor, Canada on WNZK AM 690. And in Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia on WDMV 700 AM. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. So join us every day on the U.S. Arab Radio Network and check out our website at www.arabradio.us.
And welcome to this week's episode of Two Guys on Politics with co-host former Congressman Bill Lipinski and myself, Ray Hanania, writer and columnist with Arab News newspaper. This is Season 4, Episode 15, and Two Guys on Politics is broadcast on the U.S. Arab Radio Network on WNZK AM 690 radio in Michigan, as well as on YouTube at twoguysonpolitics.com. We invite you to subscribe to get the latest episodes. My co-host for this radio show and podcast is Bill Lipinski. Bill served as Democratic committeeman and alderman of Chicago's 23rd Ward for many years. Lipinski was elected to Congress in 1983 and served through 2005 in the U.S. Congress. He currently writes the Right from the Center opinion column at the Southwest News newspaper community group. I covered Chicago City Hall from 1976 through 92, and I write mainstream columns for the Southwest News newspaper group as well, and columns on Arab American issues for Arab News newspaper. You can get information at hanania.com. We have several topics that we're going to talk about during today's show, which will be featured each week on WNZK AM 690 radio in Detroit and online. Topic 1, while Democrats and Republicans continue to tear America apart with polarization, name-calling, and confusion, a candidate came out of the left last week and won the Democratic Party nomination for mayor of New York City, the largest city in America. His name is Zohran Mamdani. He describes himself as a socialist who plans to focus on people and change the political system. He defeated former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who has had his own controversies too. The second topic is we're going to talk about Trump bombing Iran to help the Israelis and bring about an end to the conflict between the Israel-Iran war. It seemed like there was an uncertain pause, but it may be that a long-term ceasefire is going to hold. What does that mean for nuclear weapons? Moving forward, that's a couple of topics. But these two countries really beat the heck out of each other with missiles. Both Iran and Israel did a number on each other. And Trump claims he destroyed Iran's nuclear energy program, but the Iranians insist that's not true. The third topic, Trump's crackdown on illegal immigrants continues, although the courts have forced him to return people that he has deported. And the Libertarian Cato Institute says the number of deported and arrested has been unprecedented under Trump, 1,100% more than when he was in office the first time. And the final topic I think is interesting. The U.S. Supreme Court may rule today or this week on Trump's attempt to broadly enforce his executive order to limit birthright citizenship. The first sentence of the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution establishes the principle of birthright citizenship and says, quote, all persons born or naturalized in the U.S. and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. End of quote. However, the Trump administration's argument rests on the clause in the 14th Amendment, which reads, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And a lot of people argue that Trump cannot end birthright simply by issuing an executive order. Bill Lipinski and I, the former congressman, will get back right. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we'll continue the discussion right after these messages.
A car accident can change your life in an instant. As a result of a car accident, you may become unemployed. As a result of a car accident, you may need a lot of medical treatment. People think that insurance companies are on their side. Why? Because they're giving them one or two benefits. Are they giving them all the benefits they deserve? How would one know unless you consult with an attorney? Call the law offices of Jumana Kiruz at 248-557-3645. 248-557-3645.
Are you going to start a restaurant or grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Najee Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Najee Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Najee Abood, 734-744-9796.
With more than 30,000 successful in vitro fertilizations, IVF Michigan is now ranked as one of America's best fertility clinics according to Newsweek magazine. IVF Michigan fertility centers are the recognized leaders in high-quality fertility care. With locations in Bloomfield Hills and 9 other cities in Michigan and Ohio, IVF has experts in all aspects of the field. A founding member, American board-certified Dr. Nicholas Shama, is one of the leading reproductive endocrinologists in Michigan and Ohio. He has performed over 20,000 successful IVF cases, and it's helped thousands of couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. When it's time to get personalized care from Dr. Nicholas Shama at one of America's best fertility clinics, call IVF Michigan Fertility Centers in Michigan and Ohio toll-free at 855-952-9600. 855-952-9600.
And welcome back to Two Guys on Politics. I'm Ray Hanania with my co-host, former Congressman Bill Lipinski from one of the biggest districts in Illinois, which has had one of the largest concentrations of Arab Americans. We know a lot of Arab Americans are out there in Michigan listening to the program. We appreciate you listening to us. You get some insight. Bill and I offer a range of topics. We don't always agree, but Bill's insight into a lot of this stuff comes from years and years of experience in it. Bill, welcome to the program again.
Same thing to you, Ray. I'm very happy to be here. It's always a pleasure to discuss these issues with you.
So this New York, what was your reaction to the election in New York? Was it as big of a surprise? It seemed like it surprised everybody.
Well, it surprised me, and I truly believe it is probably the beginning of the end of the Democratic Party in the United States of America. The Democratic Party has lost its way. It's lost many, many followers, particularly in the white working class and the first generation that has gone to college. They've drifted away from the Democratic Party. They've gone to the Republican Party, primarily because the Democratic Party no longer is the party of the lunch pail guy, the guy who needs someone to look after him, the guy who needs someone to support his union. The Democrats used to support the union. The Democrats used to go out of their way to see to it that the working class received a decent wage, but they've moved far, far beyond that. They are, very interested in supporting issues that affect maybe 2, 3, 4% of the population, and they forget about what affects 95% of the population. The situation in New York, I think, came down to the fact that New York is an extremely expensive place to live. There are a lot of young people that have moved into New York City, and they are finding it very difficult to have ends meet. And I think they were a very big supporter of the candidate. There's nothing the matter with the candidate. He's a democratic socialist. He's going to lead the Democratic Party in the direction of socialism. I don't think that's where the Democratic Party should go. I don't think it can survive there. And I think what we are looking at is going to be a realignment of the Democratic Party to Republican Party in the next 5 to 10 years. And I think that we will probably even change the names of the parties because the parties themselves will change so much. After Trump is gone, I believe the Republican Party changes considerably. But right now it's the Democratic Party. They've chosen to go left as far as they possibly can. And we all know that this country is slightly right of center at times, slightly left of center at times, but certainly not an extreme such as the mega Republicans or, the Socialist Democrats. That's how I feel, Raymond.
Yeah, no. I think you raise a lot of good points. First of all, I think the problem is with the Democratic Party. I don't think they have good leadership. And I think they're all over the place. And they keep saying that they don't. And by the way, I don't think that the Republican Party has good leadership either, in my opinion. So we find America has been polarized for 8 to 12 years now in this new divide. And there's no middle ground. It's like we got extremists on the right, extremists on the left. Nobody can get anything done. This guy, Zohran Mamdani, he was born in Uganda. He's Indian, from India, his parents, and he happens to be a Muslim. And when you think of New York City, you don't think of a person like him winning a Democratic primary election. But I think what's happening is that while the Democrats are fighting the same way the Republicans are fighting, they're using the same rhetoric, the name calling, pointing fingers and blame. There are only a few people on both sides that seem to want to bring everybody together. I think other opportunities are rising up politically in this country, and I think this Mamdani has actually connected with one of those opportunities. He won that primary with 44% of the vote, which to me is just over a well-known name, Andrew Cuomo, who, by the way, has some problems. Some of this stuff has to do with the Middle East, but it doesn't all have to do with the Middle East. I know that Cuomo was attacking Mamdani because of his views on the Middle East, his criticism of Israel and criticism of Gaza. But I remember last week when we talked, there were polling that shows a lot of Americans are not happy with what Israel is doing in the Middle East, in Gaza, and even in Iran. They really don't want to see the United States fighting someone else's war. And I think that's one reason, we'll talk about this later, why Trump immediately just jumped in, attacked Iran, and pulled out and made it sound like this is going to help end the conflict. But the Democrats, I think, set the stage for Mamdani to win because of their confusion. And I'm wondering if we're seeing the rise of a new Democratic Party, maybe more left than what it has been, filling a void that, has just been leaderless for the last 12 years.
Well, I think that the Democratic Party started losing its way, quite a long time ago. It just doesn't represent the people it used to represent, as I mentioned earlier. I was a Democrat for 30 years in politics. Now, true, I was called, a daily Democrat, a regular organization Democrat. Some people call me a machine Democrat. Some people call me a conservative Democrat. Well, I represented a particular point of view.
Yeah.
I represented primarily the white working middle class. All right. I also supported other issues that were important to the Democratic constituency, but I was primarily there to support the white working class and see to it that they had the best opportunity they could have about moving on up, as the old program the Jeffersons used to talk about. I think you remember that, the song, "We're moving on up to a apartment in the sky." Well,
Right.
that's what
Oh, yeah.
the middle class white people do. Unfortunately, with affirmative action, which I call reverse discrimination, with critical race theory, those things did not help the white working middle class. And the Democratic Party didn't seem to care. And I think that's really what allowed the Republicans to gain all these white working class voters. And Trump championed them. I mean, it wasn't Trump that came up with this idea on things. He saw those people there, and he knew that, if he said the right things, he could get them to follow. That has happened. That's why he won the presidency twice, because of these people. You can check the record. So, this fellow who's the new mayor of New York, it's hard to believe, a city that was run once totally by the Irish, then by the Jews, now is being run by a Muslim. And I have nothing against them. Obviously, the vast majority of voters in New York City don't have anything against him either, because he got 44% of the vote. Let's see where he takes it. But you have to remember that, he's dealing with New York City, a very small section of the Democratic Party. And I don't think that his brand of democratic socialism is going to sell nationwide sufficiently to get the Democrats back into power.
Yeah, and I know that he describes himself as a socialist, but I think his definition of socialist is different from what you and I grew up with, understanding socialism to be more of a communist foundation for, the Soviets and the Chinese.
Oh, yeah.
His brand of socialism, because I was trying to read, is he really a socialist, or is he like one of these new socialists where he's saying he believes that we have to put the interests of people first before party and politics? You got to put the focus back on small businesses. He obviously supports a lot of the liberal agenda, with immigrants, and all the illegal alien issue, which is a big topic. That's something we're going to talk about in a few minutes. I'm not sure, and I think Andrew Cuomo made the mistake of assuming that he could just throw the old definition of socialism against Mamdani, and it didn't work. And I was surprised how poorly Cuomo, performed. I think he only got he's 67 years old, but he only got something like, 36% of the vote, in the election. Yeah, 36%, and Mamdani got 44%. Did you know, by the way, this is interesting. When I was looking into the story, and I wonder, have you ever heard of this? They call it ranked choice voting.
Oh, yes, I'm very well aware of it.
We don't have that in Illinois. I'm not sure if they have it in Michigan, but in New York City's election, and I guess in several states, when you go to vote, you don't just vote for one person. And there were 11 people running in this election besides Mamdani and Cuomo. You vote for all of them, your top choices. You say, this guy's the number one choice, this guy's the number two choice, and this guy's the number three choice. And then if the your number one choice does poorly, then the election system takes your number two choice and makes that your vote. Did you ever hear of that?
Oh, yes, I've heard of it. It's been implemented in a number of locations throughout the United States, far from the majority of locations. But, there's pros, there's cons about it. I think it works successfully for the benefit of the people if you're dealing with maybe 3 or 4 candidates.
Right.
When you're dealing with 11 candidates like you were in New York,
right,
I frankly don't think it makes any sense, because I don't think people, let's be truthful. You go in to vote, you have an idea of where 3, 4 people stand on issues, what those people might be saying But after that, you don't know anything about these people. You
Right.
probably don't even know their names.
Right.
So there's no real conscious effort to rank these people in a way that you understand how they should be ranked. So as I say, 3 or 4 candidates, fine. But beyond that, I think it's a mistake.
Yeah, and this ranked choice voting only kicks in if nobody gets 50% of the vote, and obviously Mamdani only got 44%. Had he got 50%, it wouldn't have been an issue at all. But had he not got, I'd never heard of this before. I mean, there've been references to this process, but I've never seen it applied. As it turns out, there are not enough votes out there, even if Cuomo got all of the number 2 votes, like second choice votes, he still wouldn't have enough to beat this guy. But Bill, this what's fascinating to me is New York is the largest city in America. 1 million people voted in this election, a little more than 1 million people. And it's so significant. It's always been a cornerstone of the Democratic Party. I've never thought of the Democratic Party not having New York City, and yet we see Eric Adams, who's who's the mayor and has had many controversies in the past, only to be rescued by, of all things, Donald Trump, a Republican. He's an independent. And Cuomo even said, hey, maybe I might run as an independent, but I think he's decided not to do that. That, to me, is really fascinating that this city flipped so easily. I mean, why? Is it really the problem, do you think, with the Democratic Party more than the issues that were being addressed? Or do you think it's the issues that Mamdani was addressing to residents in New York City, the voters, who I think they have to be wealthy to live in New York City? That is not the cheapest place to live.
That's not the case, though, Ray. From what I understand, so many people voted for him. Young people have come to New York.
Right.
They're well educated. They're starting their career, but they're not making that much money. But in order to live in New York, you have to have money. I have a grandson that is living and working in New York City at the present time, and he continually complains, that he's working for Chicago wages in New York City.
Wow.
It's very difficult to keep up paying for food there, paying for your apartment there, paying for transportation there. He's all for, cutting that down. Well, this candidate for mayor who won, he wants to have free transportation for everybody within the city. Okay, now, they say free. Well, it'll be free when you get on the bus to go someplace.
Right.
But you're going to be paying for it in your tax money.
Somehow it has to be paid for. Absolutely.
Absolutely. They're also talking about, once again, instituting rent controls in New York City. Well, they had that for a long time, and that stifled the growth of New York City for a long, long time. I seriously question if they want to go back to it, but it sounds good to me. If I was 20 years of age, 25, 30 years of age, just got to New York City, and I was trying to, develop a career. If they're going to freeze my rent, and I know what I'm paying for the next 3, 4, 5 years, I'm all for that. Now, I don't know how the people who are renting the place to me feel about it. I don't think they're too happy about it, okay? But I mean, those are two things that really played to the younger voters.
Right.
From what I understand, number one, the turnout for this election was relatively low. Now, I assume that was because most people believed that Andrew Cuomo was going to win this in a walk. I mean, just you go back 3 weeks, Cuomo supposedly was up by 30%, just 3 weeks ago. That kept the vote down. And the people who turned out are the younger people, the people who need the kind of government help that the man that was elected mayor, well, he hasn't been elected mayor. He's just a Democratic nominee.
Right.
But in the city of New York, it's, let's see, John Lindsay was actually the last person that ran as a Republican and won the mayoralship in New York City. And I think he only lasted 1 term. That was it.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Over the years, there's been a drop in the number of people who have voted in New York City. But Listen, what does it say? This guy Mamdani, and he doesn't fit the stereotype that when they say, "Oh, he's Muslim." This guy looks like he's white.
Yes, he
He
does.
talks, as if he were white, and I'm not saying it matters. I'm just saying that stereotypes and perceptions do have an impact on people. He comes
Absolutely.
across as a very smart, reasoned voice, not some foreigner. He doesn't look like a foreigner. He looks like a hard centrist American. What does it say that the Democratic Party couldn't even figure out what issue to address? And this guy knew right away to talk about the economy, because that was and immigration. But he did talk about the economy, addressing the financial problems that people were facing in New York City. And the Democrats didn't. They seemed to want to focus on abortion. They wanted to focus on all the issues that the Democrats are fighting with Trump about. They were fighting a Trump war rather than an election, to represent the people of New York City, I think. I think Mamdani figured out what it was the people in New York City wanted, and he spoke to those issues. And I think Cuomo just picked up the issues that, the Democratic Party has been battling Trump over. And I'm not sure that I think they're tired of that stuff.
Well, I think you're correct. You also have to remember that AOC supported this guy.
Right.
And she has a very, very large following.
Yeah.
She has a really powerful voice. How much she influences things other than this election, I really don't know. She hasn't passed any kind of legislation, but she certainly gets a lot of publicity. She certainly has these very strong opinions, and he had her support. I'm sure that helped him considerably. But the things that you point out also are important. As much as I hate to say it, because it indicates the prejudice that exists in this country, but he looks white.
Right.
He sounds white.
Right.
Okay. I'm sure that helped him. I'm sure today, if you tell 10 of his voters that this guy, is a Muslim, 8 out of 10 of them will say, no, that can't be. He doesn't look like a Muslim. He doesn't talk like a Muslim.
Yeah, he doesn't fit the stereotype.
No, not at all.
I don't think it was an impact on him, because, in any other election, we see it in Chicago, we see it in Los Angeles, all these other big cities. Race, religion, these stereotypes play a factor in the vote and everything, like that. But I still think that Mamdani showed the Democrat. I think this is a clarion call, wake-up call to the Democratic Party, that they need to look at these so-called leaders that they have who have not connected with me. And I think they've not connected with a lot of people. That's why Trump won. The Democrats aren't doing a good job resonating with the voters the way they did.
The Democrats had done a very good job for years and years with the news media. I mean, the news media has always been in lockstep
with
the Democratic Party quite frankly, ever since John Kennedy, and probably going back to Franklin Roosevelt, with the possible exception of when Dwight Eisenhower was president. Otherwise, the news media has always favored the Democratic Party. And I think that they still do.
Especially in New York. Yeah, right.
I believe it's a mistake if the Democratic Party decides they are truly going to become the Democratic Socialist Party and moves further and further to the left. I think they wind up in oblivion, because I just don't think that nationwide there are enough voters in this country who believe in many of the positions that they advocate.
Yeah, and I agree with you. The label socialist, you can't just transform it and make it into something, a new definition. It symbolizes something that is kind of oppressive, not progressive. And I think if I were Mamdani, I would redefine it and find a new word to describe caring for the needy people. I don't think the word socialist is the right way to do it. Long term, I think that hurts him. But clearly, the bigger problem is on the backs of the Democratic leadership. Nobody's leading in the Democratic Party. We just get all these voices of anger and complaints, and it just seems. In fact, I see more Republicans challenging Trump, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, disagreeing with Trump on, we've talked about this at the last show, disagreeing with Trump on many foreign policy issues. She doesn't want America to be involved in any foreign wars. She doesn't want America giving money to foreign countries, not just about Israel. She wants America to focus on Americans. She's a big supporter of Trump, but she still believes that needs to change. We don't get that from the Democrats. We're getting this really like mishmash of arguments. All right, listen.
Big Democrats don't know where to lead their people because they don't know where their people are going.
Yeah,
quite frankly.
Yeah, I agree with you. Listen, we're going to take a quick break right now here at Two Guys on Politics on WNZK AM 690 Radio. I'm co-host Ray Hanania with my co-host Bill Lipinski, former congressman for many, many years, offers great from Chicago and Chicagoland, and offers great insight on some of these political aspects. And we kind of offer a little different views, but that's what you want. You want to hear the two sides of an issue. You don't want, everybody agreeing. And I respect Bill because I've known him a long time. And whether we agree or not, I think he offers some great insight. And I hope that the insight I'm offering is helping you understand the issues. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll continue our discussion. We'll be talking about the bombing of Iran and Trump's effort, and bombing of Israel and Trump's effort to bring about a ceasefire, how that's going. And then we'll talk about the issue of birthright and illegal immigrants right after these messages. We'll be right back right after these messages.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
Every year in Michigan, approximately 3,000 people die of drug overdose. Today's drugs are more addictive and deadlier than ever before. Most street opioids tested contain a potentially lethal dose of fentanyl. Drug overdoses are preventable. Keep Naloxone on hand. Together, we can change the statistics. Learn how to save lives at michigan.gov/SUD. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
With more than 30,000 successful in vitro fertilizations, IVF Michigan is now ranked as one of America's best fertility clinics according to Newsweek magazine. IVF Michigan fertility centers are the recognized leaders in high-quality fertility care. With locations in Bloomfield Hills and 9 other cities in Michigan and Ohio, IVF has experts in all aspects of the field. A founding member, American board-certified Dr. Nicholas Shama, is one of the leading reproductive endocrinologists in Michigan and Ohio. He has performed over 20,000 successful IVF cases, and it's helped thousands of couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. When it's time to get personalized care from Dr. Nicholas Shama at one of America's best fertility clinics, call IVF Michigan Fertility Centers in Michigan and Ohio toll-free at 855-952-9600. 855-952-9600. Life for Relief and Development has now been rated as one of the best charities for humanitarian aid. Life's humanitarian projects span the globe, and Life is celebrating its 30th anniversary of providing essential life-saving aid to people and communities in 36 countries, regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background. Where there is life, there is hope. And when disaster occurs here or around the world, including being one of the first responders to the Turkey-Syria earthquake crisis, Life for Relief and Development rushes in to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. We are looking to help the earthquake victims, and we take 0% overhead on emergency donations. So please help improve these efforts. Learn more about our involvement to help the helpless and bring hope where it's needed most, and make your tax-deductible donation to Life for Relief and Development now at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. That's 248-424-7493.
And welcome back to Two Guys on Politics here at WNZK AM 690 Radio in Michigan, broadcasting from Illinois. You can hear us on the radio, or you can go to our YouTube channel at twoguysonpolitics.com to see our discussions in this podcast. And of course, we appreciate WNZK AM 690 running our program. We get a lot of good responses from people. And again, I urge you, if you have a question or a topic or a comment, we would love to read those in future shows. And you can go to twoguysonpolitics.com and you can get our emails for Bill Lipinski, my co-host, and myself, Ray Hanania. We just got through talking about the surprise election results in New York City with Zohran Mamdani defeating Andrew Cuomo in the Democratic primary for the mayor of the city of New York. And he seems to be riding a pretty populist wave out there. And how it impacts the Democratic Party and reflects on the Democratic Party, because it was in the Democratic primary election. But now we're going to shift over to this Trump on a couple issues. First of all, Israel and Iran. Is there a ceasefire? And it seems like there's a lot of people that don't want to support foreign wars. And there was a lot of resistance to this, and it seemed like Trump was influenced by that. And then we'll talk a little bit about the issue of illegal immigrants, the ICE crackdowns, and also this effort by Trump to eliminate or restrict birthright citizenship. So first of all, do you think, Bill, the truce or ceasefire that Trump announced, is it holding between Iran and Israel, or do you think that these two sides hate each other so much, no matter what Trump does, something's going to explode and backfire, and we're going to see more conflict? What do you think?
Well, certainly Trump claimed total, complete victory right after the bombing. Everything was fantastic. And then the left-wing news media in this country started shooting back at him. CNN certainly went out of their way to discredit the success that he had in the bombing. And I began to wonder, who was right? Was Trump once again over-exaggerating, or were the left wing just going out of their way not to give any kind of credit whatsoever to him? In the last couple of days, I've heard two reporters report from Israel saying that the Israel intelligence believes that the ability of Iran to make nuclear weapons has been put back 4 or 5 years. Now, if the Israelis believe that, the people who are most vulnerable to this program believe that and say that, I think it has to be true. So if that is the case, these reporters also go on to say that if there's no longer a nuclear threat coming out of Iran, this is an opportunity for there to really be a peace in the Middle East between Israel and all the Arab countries. Now, I'm going to ask you that question in a moment.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Secondly, General Petraeus was on this morning on radio, who I have a great deal of respect for. He was head of the, he was chief of staff of the United States Army. He was head of the CIA. He unfortunately got himself into a sticky wicket with a reporter who was doing a story on him, and he lost a lot of cachet with people. But I think he was on his way to being a nominee for one of the two parties for president. But I think he knows what he's talking about, and he feels the same way that the Israelis feel, that the bombing did a fantastic job of putting back the nuclear program. Because of that, this is an opportunity to try to really make peace in the Middle East. Now, I don't know enough about the Middle East to say that I think it's possible or not possible, but you do. So I'd like to hear what you think of well, first of all, tell me what you think of the bombing. Secondly, what do you think of the possibility of a real peace in the Middle East?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I trust anybody's version about whether we destroyed it, set it back 4 years, or only 3 months. And as much as I don't trust the mainstream news media, I also don't trust President Trump. He tends to exaggerate a lot, and he's trying to build himself up for Trump. He's trying to make himself look good. Like, look, I brought an end to the conflict. I'm the reason why, I saved the world. I'm going to prevent Iran from having a nuclear weapon, and I'm going to tell, the Israelis they need to stop doing what they're doing. He came off the pad pretty critical of Israel's government after he announced the ceasefire, and the Israelis then sent a barrage of rockets against Iran. The irony in all this, first of all, is both the Israelis and the Iranians took a beating in this war. I'm not sure either side came out a winner. The Israelis used up so many of their missile armaments that we provide to them. They're very expensive, and it's a big cost to us. I think our support is in the tens of billions, maybe 20, $30 billion that we've given Israel. And a lot of Americans, and I think Trump sees this, are not happy with that. So I think Trump wanted to bring this to an end because I think he is right. If he could resolve this Iran-Israel conflict, the Arab world might see that as a sign that he might be able to resolve Israel's and the Arab world's problems on the Palestinian issue. Now, unless that, and I'm telling you, if they don't resolve the Palestinian issue, there's never going to be a peace in the Middle East. You'll get some agreements like these Abraham Accords that really are insignificant. They don't do anything in terms of bringing down the conflict, but they did make Trump look good. They do press this, I think, the shallow image of peace being at hand. I think the Middle East is still a powder keg, and Trump needs to do a lot more. And if he's fair and balanced, I think he can achieve something. The problem is that Trump, his ego pushes him to want to achieve things rather than to be realistic. And, from the Arab and the Middle East side and the Muslim community, they're looking at Israel, who has more than 250 nuclear weapons, and they're wondering, why is it that Iran can't even have a nuclear program? The Iranians have said, that they want nuclear energy for their people. But, of course, the Israelis say, no, they want nuclear bombs to destroy Israel. But that's what they said about the Israelis. The Israelis wanted nuclear bombs to destroy the Arab world. It seems like this double standard that's going to prevent anything from really happening. As long as Israel has nuclear weapons, I don't think we're going to see a long-term resolution of this conflict between Israel and Iran, and it's going to keep the Middle East, somewhat unstable. So I am still worried about this, and I think the Iranians, they're not as dumb as they're portrayed. I think they got a lot of their nuclear materials out of that bunker, that mountain that we needed. The U.S. had to use the B-2 to bomb. No one else could bomb that and penetrate that mountain the way our bombs could. And even though they penetrated it, I think they dug deeper into that mountain. And I'm just not quite sure whether we really impacted Iran's nuclear ability or not.
Well, Ray, to counter what you're saying, though, why would the Israelis be, they have the greatest amount to lose if what they're saying isn't true. And they're saying that, the bombing was a tremendous success. It put the program back 5 years. So we can sort of all relax for a while. It affects, Israel more than it affects any other country.
Right.
Why would they be saying something like that? What kind of advantage is there for them to say that? Because they're really leaving themselves vulnerable to it not being correct. So I can't agree with you about, as far as the peace, I don't know about that. All I'm saying is that
Right.
I believe the bombing was a great success because the Israelis say it is, because it is not advantageous to them to say it is unless it really is.
Yeah, see, now I disagree with you on that, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Netanyahu has been indicted on corruption charges. Now, this goes back 4 years. And he's been, there's an arrest warrant issued by the International Criminal Court. He's a very controversial leader, and I think Israelis are deep down upset with his leadership. But when you're in conflict, and I think that's why Israel attacked Iran, they need conflict to protect his government. And I think that Netanyahu is going to, and the Israelis are going to say whatever they have to say to make it look like they were successful, because they need to tell their people, we dragged you into a war with Iran. We had some of our biggest buildings in Tel Aviv and Haifa destroyed by Iranian missiles, but it was worth it because we're able to prevent the Iranians from building a nuclear weapon. They can't say that they were unsuccessful because that would be a reflection of Netanyahu. So I trust Netanyahu far less than I trust Trump. So I'm not sure how much of it is propaganda, but I do know that Netanyahu needs to save face and cannot look like he failed in these conflicts because he's already under pressure by the whole world on what he's doing in Gaza. And if it looks like he didn't do enough in Iran, it's going to make him look weak. And it's possible we could get regime change in Israel as opposed to regime change in Iran. I think it's politics. So I don't trust anybody when it comes to, I really love the IAEA, the Nuclear Energy Agency, to go in there and make an assessment. Then I'm going to trust, them. But so far, we haven't been able to get them to look at anybody's stuff in Iran or Israel.
Why is that? Do you know?
Yeah, well, I know Israel never signed the nuclear proliferation agreement restrictions, so they claim that they're not subject to inspections by the IAEA. And Iran did sign it under the Shah. And once the new regime took over the Ayatollahs, they were subject to that agreement and were required to be inspected, have their nuclear stuff. So it's kind of a weird situation, but that's the reason. The Israelis say we don't have to be inspected, and they don't trust the IAEA, but they do want the IAEA to investigate Iran. The Iranians don't want it. They feel the IAEA is biased against them. They're not getting a fair trial. So there's a lot of politics that's fogging up that whole issue.
Well, that I agree with, but I just can't see Israel saying the program was set back 5 years if they don't really believe that is the case. And of course, Trump believes that, or at least he says he believes it.
Well, but he needs to.
General Petraeus, who really knows a lot about the Middle East and who was a very intelligent, successful military leader in our country, he believes it. So yeah, I hope it's true. I don't know. I can't prove it.
Yeah,
can't prove it either, truthfully.
That's true. I agree with you. I'm not sure who can prove it. I think the IAEA is the only agency that can do that. But you got to keep in mind that there's a lot of politics. Trump doesn't want to look like he failed either. He can't say, "Oh, geez, we didn't do it." And they would have kept pounding away at that. But if he pounded away too hard, he never would have gotten the Iranians, to be able to come back. And then he doesn't look like the peacemaker, So I think Trump has a lot of reputation on the line right now, and he needs to argue that, oh, yeah, we destroyed it. They're never going to get it off the ground. But Trump, Bill, how many times have the Israelis attacked Iran's nuclear capabilities over the past 22 years? They've done it like 8 or 9 times.
Yes.
And they're not going to stop. And they keep saying that, they keep doing it. So somehow the Iranians continue to advance on this.
But this is the first time that the support of the Americans has really been so overt, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure we supported them, Israel, numerous times when they attacked before, but this is the first time we've sort of been really open about, where we stood.
Yeah, you can't ignore public opinion, and public opinion is growingly and increasingly anti-Israel, and I don't mean Israel, I mean anti-Netanyahu's government.
Yes.
And they're seeing a larger, and I think Trump is seeing that, and politicians are seeing it. I think it was reflected in New York's election. because that was one of the major issues between Cuomo and Mamdani. The whole support of Israel and the bombing of Gaza. But yeah, you're right. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. Now, let's shift over for the last, we got about 5 minutes left here to talk about this birthright issue. What do we know about birthright? I mean, I read that part of the Constitution that says, the 14th Amendment says, quote, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. And basically that means if somebody illegally enters the country and then has a baby here, that baby automatically becomes an American citizen.
Right.
And they describe that as an anchor baby to help protect the illegal parents, to help them to get to stay in the country. So if I were an illegal immigrant or an illegal couple sneaking into the United States, the first thing I'd want to do is have a baby, even if 8 months of that pregnancy was in Mexico and the last month is in the United States. It seems more like a strategy, and that jumps the system, and I don't think that's right.
Well, I don't think it's right either, but right now the law allows them to do it. If we're going to stop that from happening, we're going to have to change the law. We're going to have to change the interpretation of the law. I mean, I think you know, Ray, that if a plane is flying over the United States and a child is born in that plane, that child is an American citizen.
Right. That's how they interpret the birthright law. You're absolutely right.
That's ludicrous. Okay.
Yeah, it is. I think.
I am not for the birthright law as it stands today because it allows that situation with an airplane. It also allows this anchor baby situation. By the same token, I like it in many other aspects. So until we rewrite the law, we're going to have to put up with what we've been putting up with, particularly underneath the Biden administration.
Yeah, I think the issue is this illegal immigration. If two people, immigrants, came to this country legally, and they're not citizens, but they're working towards citizenship, but they're in the country legally, and they have a baby, I think as long as it's within the legal process, that baby here in the U.S. should be recognized as an American citizen. Because the parents are doing the legal steps to become American citizens, and it's not some political strategy to jump the system, and then just have a baby. So it bothers me because all these things distract from the real issue. People are entering the country illegally. It's illegal. You break the law, and we should crack down on it. Doesn't matter whether the illegal person has been here 30 years or 30 days. I think that they should maybe have a process where if you're illegal, you go through a process to be vetted, because not all of them, but many of these illegal aliens are criminals that sneak into the country. It's not just good people trying to get away from oppression in Mexico and the Central American countries and other countries. There are a lot of criminals that are doing the exact same thing, and it's hard to tell who is who until someone breaks the law. And when they break the law, they should be arrested and thrown out of the country.
Well, I certainly agree with that. And I certainly think that these people who say, well, an individual came here illegally, but they've been here, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, they shouldn't be deported. I don't know that we are deporting anybody like that. There's statements made by the left. But to me, the only people that are being deported are the people that have come here in the last couple of years. And for the most part, people who have a criminal past in their country. Many of them have a criminal past in this country.
Yeah, and this issue is one of the issues that has cracked the Democratic Party foundation.
Absolutely.
The Democrats are solid behind illegal immigration. And I think that it contradicts what the majority of Americans want. And I think that issue is an issue that's hurting our people more than any other, that's hurting the Democratic Party. And I think it's weakened them. The one issue, though, I think that Trump, you're right, you can't just issue an executive order to change birthright. Which is, he tries to do everything by executive order, apparently. Listen, maybe we only got a couple minutes left, maybe 1 minute, Bill, but I wanted to ask you this question. Given all this turmoil, we're going into midterm elections in about a year, right? We'll be really getting deep into the campaign. Do you still think the Democrats can win enough seats to take back Congress, the Senate, and the House?
I don't think they can win the Senate, but I definitely believe they can win the House.
And if they do that, that gives them some leverage then to stand up to Trump.
Yes, absolutely.
But I think that what's happening is weakening the Democratic Party. I'm concerned as to whether they can actually win the House. I'm worried that the Democrats they're weakening themselves. And I'm concerned that this midterm election, we may see Trump win, the Republican Party continue to hold on to the House and Senate. And I think that just drives us deeper into conflict and polarization. So
that I agree with. Yes, the last thing I want to see is that the Republicans strengthen their control over the House and the Senate, only because it empowers Trump to do more things. And even though there are countless things that I agree with him on, his personality and some of the things he says and some of the things he wants to do, I totally disagree with him.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, everybody, listen. We want to thank you for listening to Two Guys on Politics. I'm Ray Hanania. And, of course, my co-host is Bill Lipinski, former congressman for 22 years, representing the southwest side and suburbs of Chicago, which has a large Arab American and Muslim population. And his insights on all these have been very, very helpful. Bill, I appreciate it. If you're out there and you want to get more information, visit twoguysonpolitics.com. There's emails there for Bill Lipinski and myself, and you could send us any questions that you have and any thoughts. We appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for listening. You guys have a great week. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Take care.
A car accident can change your life in an instant. As a result of a car accident, you may become unemployed. As a result of a car accident, you may need a lot of medical treatment. People think that insurance companies are on their side. Why? Because they're giving them one or two benefits. Are they giving them all the benefits they deserve? How would one know unless you consult with an attorney? Call the law offices of Jumana Kiruz at 248-557-3645. 248-557-3645.
Are you going to start a restaurant or grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Najee Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Najee Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Najee Abood, 734-744-9796.
Life for Relief and Development has now been rated as one of the best charities for humanitarian aid. Life's humanitarian projects span the globe, and Life is celebrating its 30th anniversary of providing essential life-saving aid to people and communities in 36 countries, regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background. Where there is life, there is hope. And when disaster occurs here or around the world, including being one of the first responders to the Turkey-Syria earthquake crisis, Life for Relief and Development rushes in to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. We are looking to help the earthquake victims, and we take 0% overhead on emergency donations. So please help improve these efforts. Learn more about our involvement to help the helpless and bring hope where it's needed most, and make your tax-deductible donation to Life for Relief and Development now at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. That's 248-424-7493.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziad.com. That's www.ziad.com. Ziad, quality products from our family to yours.